Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive. In this week's installment of the Worlds of Kult Divinity Lost, I will be focusing on Inferno. Inferno is sort of the classic idea of hell in the torture and punishment ideas of what people expect in hell. Now, that's not to say that this is the hell of the game of Kult Divinity Lost, because really all of the worlds are hells in their own unique ways. But Inferno is the one that most people will just knee-jerk and go, oh, that's hell. So, sit back, relax, as we get ready to discuss Inferno. In the very center of Inferno is a great mountain. This mountain has been built and turned into a great citadel. This citadel is where dwells Ashtaroth, the leader, the demiurge's exact opposite. And this is the seat of power in Inferno. This is the heart of this dark mirror of the Eternal City. You see, spread throughout the area of Inferno are the black citadels of the Death Angels. The Death Angels are the exact opposites. They're twisted versions of the principles that the Demiurge's archons represented. And you have to understand, the goal of Ashtaroth is to build the connections in the mortal world, in Elysium, to supplant the Demiurge's archons in control of the illusion that traps us. And everything here is built towards that. In this world, those who have died and for some reason aren't going to Metropolis and the oubliettes of forgetfulness get pulled to the oubliettes of suffering. Their souls get tortured. Their memories, their hopes, their dreams, confessions, everything just gets pulled out of them until eventually these souls have nothing left. And they are left to wander Inferno until they make their way to the center, to the citadel. And they go through the gates. And only once they find the sea underneath it do they find peace before being reborn back into the jail that is Elysium. They are pulled to the Death Angel who most represented their principles in life. If more than one equally represented, this soul is ripped apart and sent to two different oubliettes of suffering. And that's how the Death Angels, how Ashtaroth gain power. And it's actually all this power goes to Ashtaroth, and then he distributes it to his Death Angels. And the city itself, the city of Inferno, is It's machinery. It's sharp spikes. It is a imposing place. And the citadel, the dark citadels, the black citadels of the Death Angels are all in these labyrinthine areas where those from outside trying to find their way in will get lost and confused and eventually become part of the world. Whether that be they get pulled into the buildings and become things that are being tortured, or worse. And Inferno has a cycle. Bad people rise to power to be brought down by worse people. And that is a constant cycle going on there. Because not all of the souls who come into Inferno get sent to the oubliettes of suffering. There are those that get rewarded for their viciousness and evilness in life. And they gain control over areas of the city until they're toppled by those underneath them. Or they get promoted to members of the clergy of the various Death Angels. And that's what happens here. This is not a nice place. And the areas around Inferno, the surrounding area around it, because unlike Metropolis, this is not a vast, never-ending, eternal building. This is a city in the middle of wastes. And these wastes are drawn from what the divine entities that built Metropolis cast off. Mountains that they didn't need, forests and jungles that weren't part of their plan, thrown all around the area of Inferno. Because when all is said and done, Inferno is the dark mirror of Metropolis. Inferno is, unlike Metropolis, a place where its denizens have never served humanity. The denizens of Inferno, in fact, were at one time human beings. The most common of these denizens are the Pilgrims of Suffering. These are the entities, these are what's left of the souls that have gone through the oubliettes of suffering. When they come out, there is nothing left of who they once were. It's all been tortured out of them. And these entities, these pilgrims, bear the marks of the tortures that they were put through. The various unique tortures that each individual goes through. These are tortures ranging from simple things like limbs being removed, hardware being pushed into their bodies and left there, to more gruesome things that I really can't talk about on this channel. And as they wander through Inferno, they sing the hymns of the Death Angels until eventually they reach the great citadel in the center, till they reach Astros Citadel, where they can finally be reborn into Elysium, into our world. of course, every city has to have its guards. And Inferno, despite it not being as vast as Metropolis, is still a city in its own way. As such, you have the Damned Legionnaires. These are those souls who died in wars near places where Inferno was close by. So they bear the marks of war. They bear the marks of the wounds that killed them. And they carry the weapons and armor or uniforms that they carried in life. And they are usually either guards for Inferno or bodyguards for ranking members of the clergy. And that is pretty much their main purpose. Of course, they are always armed, because the weapons are part of what they are. But of course, they've been brainwashed from their time in Inferno to have, while they might have initiative, they don't have free will. Of course, speaking of things without free will, there are the Purgatides. These are the servants of the higher echelon entities. These are what happens to the body when it's been through its time in the tortures of Inferno. They are cut, they are mangled, they're little more than metal and fleshy shards just shambling around. And they obey those entities above them. They are servants first and foremost. Slaves, really. And they're generally geared towards specific purposes. Whether it be things involving hooks or blades in their hands or any other thing. But the big thing to remember is these are the end results of many, many years or longer of torture on a human form. And then you start getting into the things that actually have authority in Inferno. The first of these two main detailed entities are called the Resides. These are a soul is taken out of the oubliette at a certain point and is shoved into the machinery of Inferno. This soul merges with it. Instead of blood, you've got hydraulic fluid and oil. Bones and muscles are replaced by cables and steel. And this forces its way into the flesh of this body. And then a worm is dug up from the underworld and shoved into the chest cavity. And this worm takes control of this entity. And Resides are what are normally sent to Elysium to push the agenda of the Death Angels, to undermine the principles and powers of the Archons in the effort to completely take over reality, the illusion, Elysium, to the service of Ashtaroth. And then, finally, at the top of this hierarchy, you have the Nephirites. And these beings were probably human at one point, but served the Death Angels. These are the heads of the individual clergies of the Death Angels. Their bodies are still mutilated, but a more ritualistic mutilation. Think things like the Hellraiser Cenobites. That sort of thing. And that's really what the Nephirites will often look like. They are the leaders. They are the people in charge directly below the Death Angels. And they have difficulty entering Elysium because they are so disconnected from it now. But with that, I will end this discussion on Inferno, because a lot of the stuff I would really detail with gets kind of iffy on YouTube's community standards. So rather than go into those details, I'll just end that discussion here. I still have my regularly scheduled video for this week. And of course, next week's video, I will be discussing the Underworld. So, if you enjoyed this video, please click like and subscribe down below. The little bell icon will let you know when I've posted new videos. And until the next video, I just want you all to remember to have fun and keep gaming.